Time to abandon ship.
Oh no!
Here we go!
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here, here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly. Before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, then we're the pod.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
You want some soup?
Don't you agree?
Another happy landing.
All right, guys, welcome back.
Hey, man.
Hey, hey.
Hi. Here we go. Another Mando Monday.
Another
Whenever day this comes out.
I've been referring to these episodes online as Mando Mondays.
Oh, there you go. Gotta be a Mando Monday.
See, not far off. And also, I think the official Star Wars outlets have also been doing a Mando Monday kind of event, which has been releasing information on new merchandise regarding The Mandalorian.
Toy sales.
Yes, and today, I'm glad you brought this up. Today, they actually launched or announced that they're going to make a Black Series replica version of the dark saber, and they're also making a Black Series 1-to-1 helmet of the Boba Fett repainted version. So, like a little while ago, they came out with the white prototype Boba Fett helmet, as well as the Empire Strikes Back Boba Fett helmet. But now they're coming out with a third one, which is like the Mandalorian style repainted version. So,
These are like full-size helmets?
Yeah, these are the Black Series helmets. Yeah, so I own the Vader and the Stormtrooper one.
Okay, I guess like we'll have to wait and see, because I know they did the other Boba Fett. I think it was Boba Fett that we were looking at, and it didn't seem that high quality for like Black Series. I think anything that we've looked at that it's had like painted decals or any like flat colors tends to not look as nice. But anything that's like just solid plastic, like the Vader helmet, for example, looks really nice. So, to wait and see.
I guess, I'll have to wait and see, take a look at it. I'm assuming it's not going to be out for another month or two. I mean, I still can't find the Mandalorian helmet. Like
that's the one I want to see.
That's the one I want to take a look.
One.
Yeah, because it looks pretty cool still. But anyway, so about this most recent episode, I mean, like a lot of stuff happened. Obviously, we got the finale. What'd you guys think about it?
It was good.
Yeah.
I liked it.
I thought it was great. I really liked it.
Somebody's got to start.
All right, this may be against the flow here, but I also thought it was good.
Bryce is known as our more critical on the crew here. So for you then, just in general, because I know that other episodes you've been less fond of, would you say that you still prefer season 1 over this most recent season?
Yeah, I think I still prefer season 1, but I think this episode was the strongest, or one of the strongest. I think the first and the last episodes of the season were the strongest.
Yeah. That's interesting to think about, because like the first season, it felt more like, I want to say almost like it was more like closer to one single story for the most part. I mean, there's a few like quote unquote filler episodes, but this one, though it was one story again, each individual episode did feel more standalone, I think, than last season.
Yeah, I think they introduced a lot of other characters in this season that were like kind of bigger, I guess. I don't know, because there was like Ahsoka or whatever, and Bo-Katan and Boba Fett, then we got Luke Skywalker at the end of this one. So we got a lot of out of how many episodes are there in this season? 10?
I think it's 8.
8.
Yes.
Yeah. So out of at least half of the episodes, we got some pretty big characters in each one.
Right.
Yeah,
I I definitely agree with that. Like this season, there's definitely more, right? There's like probably like a bigger budget. There's more like cool characters. There's more cool Star Wars moments. But I guess what I'm just thinking from a TV point of view, like more of along the lines of like the writing, the directing, the kind of like cinematography. I feel like I just kind of still feel like the first season had a better overall theme and tone.
I feel like one of the things that season 2's done, which is something that I expected season 1 to do, where like it starts with the Mandalorian and then eventually he would build up a crew and go on these wacky wild adventures in space. But it never really happened in season 1, and it's really been happening over the last 3-4 episodes.
Which is like a really late bloom, right? Of like getting the crew together.
Well, and I think we actually brought this up last week too. Is that it's got that D&D-esque vibe to the story progression with him kind of having these connections to people that are benefiting him later on.
That's what I was kind of getting at when I was talking to last. Was like because each episode feels more individual. It feels more like more of a D&D mission kind of vibe to it.
It does, especially when Bo-Katan like specifically says I could help you. You can help me with my quest, or something like that. But the word quest put in there really put emphasis to me. That it was,
that's fair.
You up for a little quest?
Pretty much.
So in the first season, it's like the end of every other episode, he like gets a new loot reward, another piece of armor, and then
or a pointy stick.
In season 2, we get the pointy stick.
Right. Yeah. Achievement unlocked.
That's right.
Yeah. So now he's upgraded to the dark saber.
Oh man, I got the full set now, guys.
That's right.
Exactly. He's achieved
next level.
He's got the sword of Azeroth.
He's got the buffs from the armor and the weapons.
Yeah, I guess because you brought it up, we should get right into it. Because like one of the things I'm most curious about, what's going to happen now, is what they're going to do with the whole dark saber situation. It's like I actually thought the first time through I watched it that Bo-Katan got killed by the dark trooper. I saw she was alive the second time. She just didn't say anything. It was really quiet for the rest of the episode after she gets shot. So it's easily missed. And I looked specifically to see if she was alive the second time.
Yeah. And speaking of, I mean, the darksaber, I guess, if you want to get into that in a lot of detail, I guess, did you want to bring that up later, or do you want to get into it right now?
Well, we already brought it up. I mean, if you want to wait.
Okay. I mean, we can get into it now, I guess. Because I got some notes. I just gonna scroll down here. So
before we talk about the darksaber itself, I just want to say I called it. As far as Luke Skywalker goes, I feel like I got some ownership to calling that as well, because like I think we had a conversation about this at one time a couple weeks ago. As to like who the child was contacting when he was put on the Seeing Stone. And I remember bringing it up. I was like how many people do we know that's alive right now that classifies as a Jedi that could potentially be there, right?
As far as timeline,
there's not many.
No, there's not.
There's not many. It's just it's Luke. It's Luke. It's Ezra. It's potentially Cal Kestis, because we've never seen the result of that character from Jedi Fallen Order, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. I mean, I highly doubt. To me, I was like, you know what? They're bringing in Ahsoka Tano. Like, I highly doubt they're not going to use Luke Skywalker in the finale. But
still, I was on the fence on it just because I knew it would be a very big budget thing to do. I guess I would not because I mean, we saw in the credits they actually got Mark Hamill to do voice work. I'm sure that was expensive, and CG face replacement is crazy expensive and time consuming.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, well, this, in classic kind of Star Wars TV fashion, they've always nailed finales really well. Like, I remember even back on Star Wars Rebels, just in general, I always thought that show didn't really match up to Clone Wars as well, like quality wise, but the finale was always great. And so like this Mandalorian episode, it was longer, it had a higher budget probably. I really think it was good.
Successful Star Wars thing to come out since Disney took over.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they have the asset to do young Luke because, we've seen it in The Rise of Skywalker. So I always thought like there's every reason to put this character in the show and Mark Hamill's still around, is like, you know, he can do the voice and everything. Like he's done it for Robot Chicken. Like of course he would come back. So yeah, so I mean, there was a lot of, I think, evidence for me to like kind of speculate that he would be. I'm just surprised that nobody leaked it out for like a year. Like lasted a long time.
It is pretty impressive. Yeah.
Like the whole Rosario Dawson thing came out a long time ago.
Yeah, and against, you know, Phil's draw here, or wanting, like, they managed to keep the reveal all the way to the point where he beats the droids and gets in the room.
yeah, exactly. Okay, so Phil, let's hear more about your opinion on this, because I was intrigued by what you said. You weren't a huge fan of this scene.
It's like, you know who it is. Why do you need to hide the face? It's so typical of like, it's such a, like, even
you know why, right? It's because it would have cost more money.
Yeah, it's obviously because of that. But I mean, like, even then, it's just like, I just find it so funny that Jedis prefer to fight blind with the hood covering their eyes.
Oh, the Force.
Well, I mean, like they don't want to have a combination of the Force and their eyes. They just want the Force.
Your eyes deceive you. Don't trust them.
Pretty much. I just thought it was a bit silly. It's like, you know, he gets off the ship and he's still like so mysterious. I don't imagine like it being like the best for fighting. But then at the end, it's like, okay, he goes for the hood, and it's just like, wow, it's Luke Skywalker. I liked it. I thought it was Porkins the whole time.
What's the alternative? He just leaves the hood on the whole time.
Honestly, I knew it was Luke as soon as like we saw the back of his robe come in, right? A green lightsaber. You saw his hilt. You knew it was him. But yeah. I wouldn't have been surprised. And part of me thought they were going to do this. You just never see his face. It'd just be like, he's always out of focus, or like over the shoulder. You know what I mean?
That I think would have ticked off a lot of people.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I could have seen it happening.
I could have seen it happening too. I honestly, like with the X-wing, as soon as the X-wing showed up, I was freaking out. Like the first time I watched the episode, I just knew exactly right away. And
at that point, I thought it was Dave Filoni's character.
What were you gonna say, Phil?
I was gonna say, like, what would have maybe worked would have been a total bait and switch, where it's just like, it totally feels like it's Luke Skywalker and it's just some random Jedi you've never heard of before.
It's an X-wing.
He's like, hey, I'm Duke.
I'm Tato, Prince Dallas.
It's just, I don't know. It's just like, just would have been random, but overall, I just don't like. I don't know. Those kind of scenes just kind of tick me off. It's just, I know it's Luke. I don't need to have it hidden.
That's fair.
Like, how would you fix that though? Like, what's the alternative?
I'm curious.
They've already spent like
the money,
millions of dollars. Spend some more.
I mean, what if they? Would you be happy if they kind of cheated a little and they like, say when he fights those like last 10 droids and they're watching him on like the 480p like security camera, maybe he takes off his hood then and then fights but you can't really see his face anyways, because
you know what, they should have not opened the door and him just be like, him stick his arm through like, hey, pass the kid.
The door just like jams. They have to like force him to the hole.
Like, hey, I'll take the kid. Trust me, it'll be fine.
Just and his gloves gone, so it's just his creepy ass robot hand.
Yeah.
Give me the child.
Yeah, the child just starts levitating and gets force pulled out of like a hole in the wall or something.
This kid tries to come back out of the hole like, no, save me, no, and then gets sucked back in.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I do have to point out, while we're on the topic of this scene, that the final entry, I mean, to Luke Skywalker, of course, like having the hood up and everything, you know, I was able to grip it fairly well, because the last time we kind of get that first Luke Skywalker entry was at Jabba's palace, and he's got the hood up and everything as well. Now, mind you, it wasn't fully over his like eyes and everything, but he still had the cloak, and like you see the doors open, and you just see this silhouette of a person, and then the force choking thing for the Gamorrean guards, and then you kind of know who it is. But at first you're like, oh, like this is a mysterious cloaked figure, and Luke, known for wearing an X-wing outfit or anything but a dark cloak, you're like, you don't really immediately associate it with that character if you've never seen the movie before. And then it turns out it's like this, like it's like that's like Jedi Luke, but the last two movies we haven't really seen Jedi Luke, and now this is him. Like he's mastered his abilities to the point he can make his own lightsaber and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I liked the fact that they kind of called back to that a little bit. And additionally to that, the scene where he comes out of the elevator completely mirrors the Vader scene in Rogue One.
I noticed that too.
When he was going down the hallway. Yeah, like 100%. Like there's somebody online that kind of put them next to each other, and you can see that like even the way that they move their lightsaber is like, it's kind of the same general arcs of motion, and I was like, that's really awesome detail.
Super vibes.
Like father, like son.
I was gonna mention that at some point. I
was blown away. It was super well done. So I mean, props to Peyton Reed, who directed this episode, who also directed Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp. But so experienced guy.
What's cool also is like even down to the force power movement, like Vader like uses his hand to like crush the trooper against the roof. Yeah. Luke does exact same movement and uses like force crush on the droid.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is leveled up force choke. FYI.
Yeah.
That was pretty sick.
I did like it a lot. The only thing I really wish that was a little different about that scene was the music. I wasn't really on board with the music. I thought for sure that they would play the Force theme or like Luke's theme, but more like amped
Luke
up
music. Yeah.
No, they didn't have Luke music at all, and I was kind of bummed that we didn't get that. Like maybe some sort of more epic actiony version of the Force theme that we've heard before. But,
I mean, they didn't want to give it away, right? We've talked about this. They don't want to give it away that was Luke.
They could have done it when he took his cloak off, though, because even after the review, they didn't play Luke's theme, which really annoyed me.
It's funny. Usually, I don't really notice the music in Star Wars. I feel it, but I don't really pay attention to it. It's just part of like the backdrop, and it works perfectly because it blends in. But because of that robot music,
that was pretty painful.
Props to them for like trying something new, right? Like it's very unusual to have something very modern like this in Star Wars, but it totally it took me out of the watching experience and made me notice the music, and like because right after that song, right after that that music. It went back to like the Mandalorian's theme, which is quite nice. But usually, like I said, I don't really notice the music. It's just like a part of the backdrop. It might as well be like image composition to me. I don't really. It's just part of the thing. But this really made me notice it, and then I noticed, I didn't really feel the vibe of the music throughout the whole episode, like at all. It didn't really vibe well with me.
Nope, did not like it.
That's
pick one thing. That was it.
That's similar to that's similar to what I think it was Bryson. Was it you, Reed? I forget. Back on like the third episode or something when we had Bo-Katan first show up. A few of you guys didn't like the music that happened then.
Techno.
I think it was Bryce and I were talking about it was very Blade Runner-y.
Yes, that's what it was. Yep. Yeah, you guys didn't like the techno.
It was all synth, which was weird in Star Wars. I guess kind of Star Trek-y.
See, I'm really used to the Clone Wars at this point, which is an 8-season show, but 7-season show. It was supposed to be 8 seasons, but anyway. So
tell us how you really feel.
That show it does the same thing though. It really kind of brings the music to a different category of like genre in a way.
Well, they kind of have to, because otherwise you're just kind of repeating the same stuff all over again, and it'll just get more stale. That's why it's like props to them for trying something new. I just don't think it really worked for me. It could have been something else. Like, it could have been like it could have been like a similar genre, but that specific thing, it kind of felt like an 80s movie where it's like you're
Yeah,
you're actually trying to be cool. Like,
actually, you know,
They should have done Terminator. The
I was
Terminator
gonna say, it's like, but I mean, Terminator also is very synth-esque music, so it's like they're kind of and these droids, these Dark Troopers, they moved very Terminator-y. So they have that plus Terminator style music. It just feels like they're trying to put Terminator in Star Wars.
I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, like just personally, I thought that was kind of cool. I see where you guys are going with the music, though. I can kind of get on board. Like, it definitely, if you're expecting Star Wars music, then it really doesn't ring with that expectation for sure. But as far as the Terminator vibe from the Dark Troopers goes, like, I really like that a lot, because they've done like things like that in the shows before, where it's like, you know, George and Dave were collaborating over kind of what to do with some Clone Wars arcs, and they thought, oh, let's do like Seven Samurai in 22 minutes, or like let's do Godzilla in 2 episodes, and you know, this and that. So that it kind of keeps following that tradition of like having this inspired story kind of take place in Star Wars. And so I like that it kind of hinted at the whole Terminator vibe, because I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, I like that a lot.
It totally fit. Like, it fit the scene. It fit like the mood they're trying to give to the troopers. Mm-hmm. It just overall, you know.
I think that maybe with Star Wars, like there's a difference between like Star Wars doesn't have a lot of songs. Like, that felt like a song to me. Like someone like produced like a dubsteppy song. But like, I feel like Star Wars is more full of like themes. Like when you hear like, for sure. And I don't quite know how to explain like the difference between those two things, but they feel different to me. Like when I think of like the Trade Federation theme, when you see droids, right? Yeah. Or like,
See, that's exactly what my thoughts were when Luke showed up. I'm like, oh, where's the Force theme? Like,
man, honestly, that was a big issue for me.
Yeah. So anyway, I hate to bring us all the way back to the beginning of the episode here, but
we should do that.
We should go back and talk about some of that stuff. So I guess the first thing that was brought up was how do the ships dock?
Flies above. Like, cause it's got 3 fins, and one of them's like vertical out the top, and then the slave one flies above, and like
it's a goofy shape, which I don't know how that docks in the first place.
So
I think they'd have to go butt to butt, right? Like engine to engine.
Yeah. So there's the only thing that I can kind of bring to the table as far as like something that might be a possibility is back in the Clone Wars, there was like Hondo's crew, their ship was like a UFO, and when they docked with another ship, they had like a tube that would like extract from the side of the ship and like then go into one of the hatches on the other ship, which was kind of at a more awkward angle. But you know, they made it work kind of thing, and it was just this like long tunnel.
It was a tube,
There's a long tunnel that would then come out and attach. So I'm thinking maybe somewhere.
They didn't have time for that though. It was just like Slave One flew over, and then Mando just walks in.
I think it has to be some sort of connection.
Yeah. Maybe you just jetpacked out the Slave One and
that's true. You could have jetpacked over there.
That's possible.
All right, I'll explain this, Josh. Okay. When a daddy Slave One meets a mommy Imperial shuttle.
But all these ships must have like some kind of universal docking mechanism. For like a spaceport or something, they must have like something that's universal that could just hook up to an air dock or something.
Probably.
Yeah.
There's tubes. Like I don't know.
I gotta be honest though, the pilots or whatever, I didn't really like their Soviet era tank trooper hats. I was like, man, if you're gonna do an Imperial hat, like you should have either gone with a normal cap or my favorite, the wok dish helmet.
The wide one.
The wide one, I think the only time
that the guy in like episode 6 that like, you know, he dive bombs into the Star Destroyer and he's screaming. You know that guy? He's got like the same hat.
He's got the same. So this hat showed up before.
This style.
A-wing.
You're right. So the rebels do have some of these sometimes, because I think even like in Rogue One, I think I've seen a few characters from the Rebel Alliance have these things on.
But I was just I was like,
Yeah.
man, could have gone with my walk dish helmet. Like, I really wanted to see that again. Every time I see that, I get really excited. But no, they cheated me.
I think those are Imperial gunners. They don't fly shuttles.
No, I think they've I don't know. They've been at control stations and stuff like that. I don't know, Matt. I would have settled even for a regular Imperial cap.
Yeah, that's what I would have went with too. I will admit, it didn't look very Imperial to me.
I kind of like it. I feel like original trilogy stuff is all based off of old World War II stuff that they just...
Well, like, if they were the rebels, I wouldn't have cared. I would be yeah, the rebels, it's a piece of garbage on their head, got it, no problem. But they're Imperials, man. I'm like, where's the classy, gotta look good, like, wasn't my favorite.
Yeah, I would have preferred just the regular hat.
Yeah, that's fair. So Din, it was pointed out by somebody, I forget who, maybe it was Phil. Din doesn't actually know a whole lot about the Darksaber at all, and yet he's Mandalorian.
Oh, that was me.
That was
like,
Reed.
Hey,
okay,
bro. Like, so this guy's like, I'm the hardcore of the hardcore. I am like the top dog of the Mandalorians. Like, this is the way. Not ways plural, the way. And he's like, huh, Darksaber? What's that?
I'm glad you brought this up, because I honestly, like, that really puzzles me too, because like my theory about like the fact that he's like this cult, like he belongs to a Mandalorian cult basically, right? Because that's what Bo-Katan says. So the main Mandalorian society, I guess, like looks at this Darksaber as a significant thing. It's like whoever holds that weapon that's been passed down since like Tor Vizsla kind of thing is can rule Mandalore as long as they wield the Darksaber, right? And Din knows nothing about it. So I'm assuming that his clan or his like cult of Mandalorians predate that entire event. Like they predate the whole original Darksaber from the Old Republic. Like his clan has probably been around for a very long time. So
when did the Darksaber first start coming around? Because it's ancient, isn't it?
It's ancient, yeah. It's the first. It was the only and the first Mandalorian Jedi that made it back in the days of the Old Republic, and that's all that it said about it. And then what happens to him is he dies, and the saber remains at the Jedi Temple. But then a big, massive war breaks out. The Mandalorians actually raid the Jedi Temple, and they take the Darksaber back. And they made a law which states that the Mandalore, which is the guy who wields the Darksaber, essentially rules Mandalore as their leader. And until someone's able to challenge him and defeat him in battle, they get rulership and ownership of the Darksaber as well. So during the Clone Wars, Darth Maul knew this pact, and so he barges into the throne room, which Pre Vizsla at the time, which they had a partnership going on to try and take over Mandalore, and Pre Vizsla kind of he senses he kind of gets the feeling that Maul's gonna backstab him. So he kind of goes ahead with his plans and backstabs him first. And so Maul gets
classic villains teaming up with other villains. Am I right?
Oh yeah, totally. So Maul's like gets really pissed about this because his plan just fell apart a little bit. So he's like, you know what? Pre Vizsla, he's a man of honor. He will not deny me one-on-one combat. So that's what I'm going to challenge him to do. So that's what he does. And he fights with his like half, chopped off saber thing. And then, Pre Vizsla's got the Darksaber or whatever. And so they have a bit of a duel, and Maul comes out on top and kills Pre Vizsla and gets the throne to Mandalore. And then that's kind of how the finale of the whole Clone Wars wraps up, is that Bo-Katan, who was once aligned with Pre Vizsla, has just lost her leader. So she's like, no outsider's ever gonna rule Mandalore. So she packs up and she's like, hey, we're out of here. So like her and her night owls just like kind of rebel and leave. And then they kind of cross paths with Ahsoka, who helps them out and gets the Jedi on their side. And Bo-Katan was the sister of Satine, who was a lover of Obi-Wan Kenobi at one point. So so they kind of make an alliance, and they're like, you know what, the Republic can help. We want Maul anyways, and we can get your planet back. So that's what they do. And the 501st Division is like split in half. So like half of it is in the movie Revenge of the Sith, and then the other half with like Captain Rex and Ahsoka are on Mandalore. And then they're having their whole battle there, and they actually win. And Maul gets taken into custody, but then while they're delivering him back to the Jedi Temple, and he's got news about like Sidious and all that stuff, he knows the whole plan. The Purge actually breaks out on the way back, and so the whole thing like kind of goes into chaos, and like that news is never delivered, and all this and that, and yeah. So what happens to the Darksaber is it still remains in Maul's possession until Star Wars Rebels, and then after he's defeated at some point during that point of time by Kenobi, the Darksaber is found by a character from the Rebels crew, and she actually passes it to Bo-Katan. And a lot of people have been asking, like, why doesn't Bo-Katan take it from Din Djarin in The Mandalorian when she actually took it from Satine when it was offered to her back then?
That's what I was wondering too, because you brought this up when we were watching it, that she was offered it. She didn't win it in single combat. So then why is she all joked about not winning it this time? She's already accepted it once before.
Yeah, so my speculation on this is that it's actually because like the last time she lost it must have been in battle with Moff Gideon, which at the time must have been in the ISB or whatever. Like somehow she lost this Darksaber after the events of Rebels, and which takes place before Episode 4. And then she's been after it ever since. But because she lost it in battle, she needs to reclaim that right in battle. Whereas like Satine, who found the Darksaber in Maul's lair, who at that point Maul was dead and nobody knew what happened to him, I guess. You know, they didn't know that Obi-Wan killed him in the desert. So she just takes it, knows what it is, trains with it, gets to know the saber and uses it for quite a while of the show, but then realizes like, I'm not the one that should be leading Mandalore, like Bo-Katan is. So she gives it to her, and Bo-Katan accepts the sword on her sister's behalf, who was once the ruler and the Duchess of Mandalore, which Maul killed, right? In an attempt to get revenge on Kenobi. So it all kind of like comes together that way. And I always thought like, oh, maybe she allowed herself to take it in that moment because it wasn't a combat situation, but maybe today, like, that's not the case, right?
So I don't even get, because Moff Gideon's still alive, like, and he was like 2 feet away. So I'm like, bro, like, cut off his cuffs, like, give him the Darksaber back, and have them do it like a 1v1, like, fight to the death, like, right there. Let's get it done.
Yeah, I heard you say that when we were watching it. I thought that was quite funny. I was like, yeah, I mean, the little plot holes here and there, right?
And another thing is just kind of like they didn't really like. They weren't really precise about what it meant to like lose it in combat or whatever. So it's like, if the Mandalorian currently is the owner, I guess, of the saber, well, he didn't kill Moff Gideon. He just did him in combat. Yeah. So just get the two of them in a ring and settle this.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's probably what they'll do at some point.
Yeah, imagine so. But I mean, it's like, I don't know. They made it in such a big deal, which is like, I hope they explain it a bit more.
She looked very, very cheesed about the whole situation.
Oh yeah.
So my speculation is that Mando's gonna keep the Darksaber because what's her face is too
stubborn.
Too stubborn to take it from him. And then next season he's gonna go back to his foundry or whatever and be like, "Hey, what's up, boss? So did the quest, got the kid delivered, and hey, look what I found. This is cool Darksaber thing." And then they're gonna be like, "Whoa, bro!" Like, huh?
No, they're gonna be like, "Did anyone see your face?" And he's gonna be like, later.
But they're gonna be like, all right, now let's go get Mandalore, and now he's gonna be a Big Daddy Mandalore, and he's gonna have to reclaim it. I think that's gonna be next season.
Which one of us speculated that we thought it's also a possibility that Boba would become Mandalore or something like that? This came up at one point.
I was talking about it. I was talking about it because that's what happens in the EU.
Yeah,
Right,
it's in the
that's what it
books.
was.
I didn't think it would happen, but I was like, well, it happens in the books.
It almost. You were almost right. You were just got the wrong planet.
So,
there you go.
so he's not getting the position of Mandalore, but he does get the position of Jabba the Hutt. So I don't know if that's any better.
Yeah,
But I think
no,
an
no, it's
overweight
not.
problem is in his future.
It's not the position of Jabba the Hutt anymore, though, because it's not the Hutts anymore. It's the Fetts.
right.
Fett crime family. Oh man,
The kid.
I don't know. I feel like Django would roll over in his grave.
Probably. It's not going to
I
be.
mean, he's like the boss hog of all boss hogs now, though, right, man? Like he's like the top dog of all the bounty hunters and stuff now. He's not just the bounty hunter. He's like owns the bounty hunters.
I really. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bryce.
I'm just saying something dumb again. I'm like, I can't wait to see his little pot belly like sticking through his.
Does he have to get fat too? No, like is it gonna be a chin or a belly or both? Like what's gonna happen?
Change that E to an A.
His chin hangs out underneath the bottom of the helmet. Just bolts.
I thought it was hilarious that. I mean, I for one thought Bib Fortuna had died on the sail barge, right?
Me
but
too.
I mean, I did not expect him to be like 300 pounds larger than
I
the
love
last
that
time.
though.
That was great, yeah.
Whoever decided that's what they're gonna go with, like props. That is amazing. I love every moment of it.
I thought it was quite funny. I thought it's like, I mean, if you think about it, Bib Fortuna like worshipped Jabba for years. Like he was there at the pod races, right? So I mean, he thinks like super highly of Jabba in every state, right? So I mean, I think maybe he just tried to be like him in every way, shape, and form, literally. But anyway, I pointed out at one point Bo-Katan's yellow blaster bolts weren't actually yellow in this episode. I don't know why
But
that
they
happened.
were in the other episode.
Yeah, and they're supposed to be because it's like that in every other, like on the animated shows and everything like that. The Mandalorian blasters are always yellow from from Bo-Katan and all those people. Like it's always yellow.
Yeah, it was yellow in Clone Wars, and it was yellow in Rebels, and it was actually yellow 3 episodes ago in this season of Mandalorian.
And the first time she shot a blaster bolt, I noticed that and appreciated it right away. And the first time that I know, I'm like, the first time that she shoots her gun in this episode, I'm like, why? Like what the heck? But I noticed a few other like things that they kind of went
Complain to
sloppy on.
Pablo or someone to see if they replace it like they did with Captain Blue Jeans.
Yeah, well, there was also the scene where the cloner officer guy gets shot and the guy behind him gets shot, and I pointed out there's like an outline of his ear that was like floating in front of his face in the brief scene that the other guy gets clipped. So yeah, I don't know, it's just really, really odd. So there was that, and then there was one shot with Luke Skywalker. It didn't look as if they'd actually given him a lightsaber effect, because on set they do film with a glowing blade, very similar to like the ones you can get for dueling sabers and stuff like that, and it's to get the interactive lighting. But so they did that with the sequel films. But sometimes you can get away with it because it's so hot, like the light, that it'll show up white in the center anyways on camera, and the outside will be green. But I think they went really cheap on that far away shot, and they're like, oh yeah, we don't need to add it in. But I could totally tell. And I guess additionally to that, I think there was only one other thing I noticed. But anyway, there was like a few things I was like, oh, that's weird. That's like a
minor tech fixes that slip through or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
You kind of skated over.
Why do you hate Star Wars?
What was that?
Just like, why does Josh hate Star Wars so much?
Oh man. How'd you guys like the Dark Trooper Plastoid? Like what do you think that is?
Mega Beskar, probably.
Well, no, because the lightsaber cuts through it.
Exactly.
Oh, shit.
Beskar cuts through it too.
Yeah, because I thought that too. I wrote it down. Like, are we going to find out if it's Beskar or not? And it is not. That is confirmed. I mean, I wonder if it's a form of cortosis, which isn't as lightsaber resistant.
Right.
But we know for sure it's not Beskar now.
Yeah, I kind of just accepted it because as a big Terminator fan, I'm like, yeah, perfectly natural that they're able to block and deflect like everything and next impossible to kill.
Well, speaking of the Dark Troopers, the officer guy who was kind of giving them the inside scoop on Moff Gideon's ship, he did confirm to us that these are in fact Phase 3 Dark Troopers, which is weird because I always thought Phase 3 was not robotic originally in the EU, but I guess they've changed that part of it.
Okay. Can I just say I thought it was kind of lame that dude literally just like belly flopped straight up, like was under no pressure to cough up any information whatsoever, and he's just like, Phase 3 Dark Troopers, they're right here, over there, and so there's all this stuff too, blah blah blah. I was like,
in the first season, though, he as soon as he gets a blaster to his face, kind of thing, like he's like, just take the child.
That's what I mean, though. There was no blaster to his face. He's just sitting there in the corner, like by himself. No one's even talking to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, hey, by the way, I'm gonna rat out this entire like cruiser, like of the one guy I fear most in this world."
I mean, I would.
Yeah. That's I think
I'm like a
kind of guy.
It's like I'm not.
Yeah, it does feel like he's just like in it only for the science and nothing else. Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say, I think he's the kind of guy that's in for the job. Yeah,
probably similar to the guys who were designing the Death Star, right?
Yeah. A lot of those guys probably just. It might even be like Galen, like Galen Erso, for example. Like he was just sucked into that job and didn't want to do it. But it seems like this guy. I mean, this guy's really crucial to this whole plan. So even if he tried to get away, like the Empire would find him and force him back to work, kind of thing. So maybe he just doesn't. Maybe he wants to get out, right?
You know what? Theory for next season. Now he's gonna be the new nemesis because he's gonna be like, because now that they still got the blood or whatever from Grogu, he's gonna be like, we stand here amidst my achievement.
Yeah.
Like Moff Gideon. Yeah, he's just gonna take Moff Gideon's place.
He just gets deformed and just turns into Snoke.
He clones himself and makes Snoke. Yeah.
Just injects himself with Grogu's blood and he just turns into Snoke.
Yeah. Incredible Hulk style. Oh man.
Oh my goodness.
So somebody said, why is Moff Gideon a Moff? I forget who said that. Yeah.
So
Let's hear some theories. Do you guys have any theories on that?
I like Blake's suggestion that it was like what do they call it? Like buy a street or something like that, except it's buy a planet. And it's like, hey, join the Empire today. You get this one-time offer to become a Moff. Just buy one planet and you'll be a Moff.
I was saying, I think it's like a self-proclaimed title. So, I mean, when we first hear about him, he's referred to as a warlord. So I kind of feel like after the Empire kind of fell apart, he just like took over the system and just self-proclaimed himself Moff.
Yeah, I got that feeling too, as well as the fact that, I mean, Werner Herzog's character, who I always forget the name of, he had his firing squad just kill that guy. And, so maybe he killed his way to the top too.
Well, didn't we talk about that in the first season too? That at the Empire, the state of the Empire at this point is probably just like a collection of warlords and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it's not really surprising that someone would be like, "Oh, hey, guess what? I'm a Moff now." Yeah,
it's actually explicitly explained as that in the novels that come right after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
and even around Kashyyyk, there's that one guy who's a warlord who just makes all of his income selling Wookiee slaves.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd also like to mention Squadrons. So Reed, I've been playing a lot more of it lately, and I got to the point where I had to defend an Imperial base that's like somewhere, I forget the name of it, but the story kind of plot goes like that we have to do that, and that station is like under control of one of these like high up Imperial officer people.
Yeah, the munitions depot.
The munitions depot, and we end up like heisting munitions from our own guy because he just doesn't give it to us, like because the Empire is so broken.
He's like, I don't have authorization. I'll do what I want with my munitions. You're not allowed. Like the Empire's literally falling apart, and he's just being the biggest jerk on the planet.
Yeah, exactly. So like, there's all these like foolish people that just they have no leader, right? So they're at the top of their chain. It's like they're their own boss at this point. So, I mean,
Yeah.
at that point, it's just like a power struggle because they're all trying to gain control of this broken empire.
I mean, there's nothing saying that he doesn't control planets at this point. Like,
Yeah.
I was reading this. Moff apparently is a leader of a sector in the galaxy, and there's about 1,000 sectors in the galaxy.
Because what's their hierarchy? They got the barons and stuff like that, which the individual baron controls like an actual planet, I think. And then,
Well, he does
I guess
have.
Moff would be like the leader of like a group of barons or something.
Because we have met one Baron in the show so far, and it's the one that Ahsoka was asking about Thrawn. So I've kind of brought this up once before, I think, where I always speculated that Moff Gideon was actually in league with Thrawn rather than anybody else, which is why he actually has all these resources, you know?
Yeah.
Because
It would make
Thrawn
a lot of
is
sense.
yeah, Thrawn is a resourceful guy. So even in the moment that the Empire crumbles apart, like I feel like if anyone's kind of gonna be the person to bring that back together, some kind is gonna be Thrawn, right? Because that's originally what happened in the EU as well. So, have I got that right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what
That's when we met Thrawn. Was the novels right after Jedi, and he was basically managed to get all the splintered cell pieces of the Empire and get them back in formation, working again.
Yeah. Heir to the Empire. So the Mark Hamill cameo / deep fake CGI face, so we talked about it off record, but just so that we can kind of get it on the show here. Do you guys think it was CGI or do you think it was deep fake stuff?
I think it's deep fake, personally.
Yeah, it looked different than CGI. It definitely didn't look like a model that was animated.
Yeah, but it looked like a 2D image that they had put on whoever was there playing the character. Because just kind of like his head, I don't think was even the right shape. It was like slightly malformed.
Yeah, I do think it was deepfake because I did read an article, and the actor is out there. Like you can look it up and look who the actor.
I looked him up too. He's just like the body double that plays him. Yeah. So yeah, I know. I was on the first time I saw it. I thought back to a conversation I think that we actually had on Hangouts at one point where I was saying, deepfake is kind of going forward a lot more. I think that they'd be using it in film more frequently than CGI faces and stuff. And sure enough, now we're actually getting like really early stages of. Yeah, because I can't really think of any other places in cinema that you actually do get a deep fake. Like most of the time so far, it's been a CG head.
Did they? Yeah, usually CG head. Did they try doing any sort of deep fake for the Fast and Furious?
No, that was CG.
That was CG. Yeah,
okay.
That was CG.
Sorry. So what is deepfake? I don't understand. Is it just like a modeling tool or something like that? Like
No, it's like what is it? Machine learning. So basically, you have a bunch of stills from one person, and you have like a moving actor, and the computer, like after like a bunch of like iterations, it'll try to match the reference picture's face onto the moving person. And it can have some really cool results, but it's just not there just yet. It's always like around the neck and the hair. I always find the biggest issues.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes the hair isn't even the deep fake part. Like sometimes like they would keep the hair of like the person and then they have just the face is like the deep fake thing.
Yeah, but it's like there's an interaction in between that always like it slides. It's like the tiniest bit of sliding.
It's the blending areas, for sure.
What's funny is there's a shot with Luke where when he bends down to pick up Grogu and like he puts his head down and everything, but none of his hair moves at all. Like it's just a flat CG model. So I'm like, oh, that looks really bad.
that's some intense hair wax.
Yeah, like nothing moved, even though he's got like pretty long hair.
It's the Force, man. Like, what do you think? He just looks that good all the time. It's the Force keeping him looking good, man.
Yeah, Luke Skywalker's Force brand gel.
Yeah. It's just an empty bottle.
Sometimes you just gotta force it.
So there was a bit of a character development moment at the very end because Din Djarin finally removes his helmet. And
well, to the child, he's moved it. He's taken it off in last episode.
It's something that I don't think. It's in front of everybody, right, including Luke, who's a guy he never met. And I think it's like it has something to do with the last episode that we watched with. Dang it, I always forget his name. What's his name again? Merriweather or something like that?
That sounds right.
It's Mayfeld.
I almost said melancholy.
All right, so Mayfeld. So he has a conversation with at length, in the truck, like about removing his helmet and everything. And I thought like, we might actually see some reflection of this conversation later, because they kind of focused in on it quite a bit. And and sure enough, like he's able to, the child, like Grogu asked him to remove it by putting his hand up to the helmet. And so I thought it was a really cool character moment to see that he's finally gotten to that point where it's like, he's able to cross the line for essentially what he considers his kid. And for him, like, who's a guy who's basically been his father this whole time, to me, I thought that was quite a special moment, because like you've really seen the development of these two kind of grow closer as time's gone by. First he was supposed to be out to kill this thing, and at the point now he's like throwing himself in front of him for blaster bolts, and taking off his helmet for him, and doing all these things, and doing it more than once as well. To reference the face scanner.
Well, don't they like when he gets like quested or whatever to bring him quote unquote back to his kind, like don't they actually like call Grogu like a foundling basically?
Yeah. So the armorer person, she kind of says like, you two are a clan now. So cool. No, I thought it was really cool though to see kind of that development.
Yeah, I thought it was. That makes me realize, that makes me a little disappointed that he gave up Grogu to learn to Luke, because if we just would have held on a bit, we could have got a Yoda Mandalorian armor.
I don't want to.
He said he'll find him again.
So I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but there's a character called Kylo Ren that comes up eventually and kills everybody.
No, man, we don't know that Grogu didn't become a Knight of Ren.
Nah, I know.
It's so funny.
He just CG'd this little helmet into the back of every shot.
Dude, he was the helmet. Yeah. He's standing on top of somebody else.
I'm just waiting to hear in the background of one of the shots with the Knights of Ren here. Huh?
Little Tim the Toolman grunt.
I think we'll see him again. I don't think they'll leave it completely up to him being a student of Luke that just gets ripped apart by Ben Solo. But
that's what we're at.
You know what he's gonna be like? Luke's gonna come back and drop him up and be like, "Oh man, like dude, he was getting into my stuff. He was taking all my food. He was taking my lamp and stuff, dude. Man, I can't deal with this. He's yours now."
On the other hand, though, like I would not be surprised if we do get to the point where it's like, this Grogu ends up being at Luke's temple and makes that moment so much more impactful, because now we actually have some students of Luke's to kind of put heart in a little bit, because before it's like nobody cared. Like nobody cared about the fact that Ben Solo ripped apart Luke's Jedi temple, because we didn't know anybody. Did you?
I mean, I think if they I don't know. I don't know if I can like Kylo Ren anymore if he kills Baby Yoda.
Well, that's just it, right? That's just it. Because before I didn't care enough to dislike the character, but now like that scene, because I felt for Luke, but I didn't feel for all the dead bodies scattered everywhere. Like, I mean, it sounds a little harsh when I say it that way, but it's like I had no connection to their characters, right? And it's just the same as like when Obi-Wan is telling Luke, like, oh, the Jedi wants the Guardians a piece of the old, it's like Vader hunted down and destroyed the Jedi. Who cares? We don't know any of these people. You watch
what about
the prequels.
All these younglings that got murdered by Anakin? We don't know them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you watch the prequels and it's like, dude, like this sucks. Like this is like a really emotional moment in the story, and now we have some context. So like I feel like maybe it also could go in the direction that Grogu actually is this student of Luke Skywalker's that stays a student up until the point that he dies.
Here's where I'm gonna say you're probably wrong about that. How many times in the story did they lead up to Ahsoka dying, and then Dave finds a way to rescue her? I think it's gonna be the same thing all over again.
Yeah.
Well, no, they've only done it once that they actually brought her back, and that was in the same episode, and that was midway through the Clone Wars, and so they never had
Dave's
an
characters
intention.
don't die. Same with like Rex, right?
It's true.
Showed up
It's
again.
true. It's
Even
true.
though all the clones are dead, Rex survives.
Yeah.
And Commander Wolf.
Think of how many people's lives will be scarred if they kill off like Grogu, Baby Yoda. Like so many people, so many kids everywhere. They're gonna be like, what?
You're gonna start selling like decapitated Baby Yoda toys.
Yeah, I was gonna say it. They'll have like the Last Jedi version. He's like cut in half.
Oh my god! Tens of thousands of girlfriends will stop liking Star Wars. Like, oh, dude.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I don't know. I can see where you're coming from there, man. Like I don't want to believe it. And it's not exactly. I'm not set on that speculation, but I'm just saying like it is an option that we got to consider because like Luke is trying to restart the Jedi Order, and this is a big step in doing that, right? So he might actually already have other students, and the event that all this stuff happens is not that far away. Like we're talking maybe like. Because there's 29 years between Force Awakens and Return of the Jedi, and this is 5 years after. So that's like, and Ben Solo betrays Luke before the Force Awakens by a couple of years, right? So we're really not that far off. Like if you think about it, like really? Even though he ages quite a bit in that 15-year gap or whatever.
And Grogu's like what, 50 years old?
Yeah,
so it's gonna grow like half an inch by that time.
Yeah, not even.
Probably still wouldn't be able to talk.
Yeah, so I mean that event is scarily not that far away, and 15, 20 years kind of thing. But it's definitely in the back of my head thinking like, oh, like was he one of those people or not? But
yeah, no wonder like Yoda's species is so like. I don't know.
Unrepresented?
Yeah, because like they freaking don't make it to adulthood. They're so infantile and terrible for so long. They all die out.
They're basically just like baby turtles.
Yeah, I was just thinking turtles, man. Just like they hatch from the egg and then they all just get slaughtered before they get to adulthood as they make their way to the water.
Oh yeah, watch. Yeah, that's gonna be exactly it. They're gonna find the planet that they're on, and there's just gonna be tons of them, but they're all getting killed off by the other creatures on the planet.
I think we're generalizing just a little hard here. I mean, like Yoda lived a full life. I will remind all of you.
He's a 0.1%.
Yeah, and Yaddle was a Jedi Master by the time that she died, so she must have been like
most species that have this issue of their young being killed off in large numbers, they have like thousands of children at once. So I mean, we could be seeing like a hatchling situation going on with Yoda's species now.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's like our struggle to the finish line, like to get off the planet, and only the strongest make it for survival of the fittest.
Has George ever done a planet where the entire planet is just a giant nursery? Because I feel like that'd be Yoda's planet.
That was episode 1 of The Mandalorian. All of those crates were full of Yodas. He just took one.
Just leaves the rest behind. They'll just starve.
I think as far as like season 3 goes, I'm pretty sure we'll see Grogu again.
Is it confirmed? Are they even going to do a season 3? Or are they going to just branch off into different series?
No, I think it's confirmed, right?
I think it's confirmed. One of the actors kind of confirmed that there was a season 3 and potentially even a season 4 happening of this show. They didn't officially announce it, but what they did announce was that Ahsoka and Rangers of the New Republic will sideline The Mandalorian, and eventually all 3 shows will cross over into a cinematic event. which it could either be another series or it could be like a Disney Plus movie or something like that. So
that'll be interesting, just because that's a lot of canon to manage at the same time to make sure.
I don't know if they can handle it. I mean, if they're clearly trying to go for an Avengers thing, and the Avengers worked out great, but they couldn't even handle 3 films that are supposed to, take after each other.
Right. Well, that's I think Lucasfilm is really kind of like, like they're still trying to recover from like the fan faith, But I mean, Marvel does it really well.
Out of all this stuff, after Disney took over, like this is the one thing that's other than like Rogue One, maybe, that I think has by far been the most like successful, not just like financially, but like fan approved as well. So I think they'll do fine, at least with this show. I don't know. We'll have to see how the other shows kind of turn out, how woke they try to be with the other shows, like they did with some of the movies that we shall not name.
It is kind of funny. It's like they're like, oh, what? People don't hate this one. Okay, let's just make like 10 series on like.
Honestly, man, that's they probably just gave them like carte blanche. They're like, all right, yeah, you can do whatever you want. Bring in Bo-Katan, like Ahsoka, like you can bring Fett back. Yeah, go for it, man. Bring him back. Do what you want there. Like,
I hope that Trapper Wolf makes appearances in every single one.
I bet it will too.
Oh, Rangers of the New Republic, hands down. He's going to be a main character.
I think that like the ending of this season is like it's going to give a lot of good stuff for the third one, just because like it's cut quite a bit of ties to the main story. Because like for the last 2 seasons, it's been really about the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, and the two of them, and all the adventures kind of center around trying to kind of discover what Grogu is really. And when I feel like when the Mandalorian started the show, I thought it was refreshing because it wasn't just lightsabers and stormtroopers. You know what I mean? And
I was craving that.
As season 2 went on, I feel like it was a lot more just like stormtroopers being like incredibly stupid. And then it was kind of getting to the same mold a little bit to certain points for me. But now with season 3, if they cut ties with Grogu a little bit, at least for the most part, then they can kind of go back to having a standalone adventure that can be pretty refreshing again. They don't have to stick to the same stuff all over again. They can kind of have
downsize it a bit.
Yeah, like a small reset button where it's like, it's not always about, saving
now it's going to be about the whole Mandalore thing, right? So
yeah. Do you think that's what it's going to be about? Like, what do you guys want to see in the next season?
Probably the Mandalore thing.
Yeah, probably. I think it's kind of constricted. Like I think it is going to be constricted by like the Mandalore thing, because he has the Darksaber now, and whether he has a clue or not how important that is apparently to everybody else, I think he's gonna like probably be quested now to take back Mandalore or something like that.
And what would also be kind of cool as like a side story is his original clan finds out that he like took off his mask and they all like turn on him.
I was actually thinking that too. I was thinking that as well.
So then he'd be like an outcast to them. And I don't know what the rules are. Like, are you just kicked out, or are they supposed to like hunt you down? Like, I don't really know what the rules are around that, right? I don't think they ever said. So he's definitely going to be out, but
it does make me wonder what's going to happen to the rest of his clan. Yeah, because that's something that still hasn't really come up since the season 1 finale.
Yeah, they didn't talk about it at all this season, other than just when he's like talking to people who already knew about it.
Boba and him have cut ties now because the job is done, which is great. So that character is no longer a recurring character for the most part in this show.
Mm-hmm. I kind of hope he does show up. There's a little overlap with him. Like they like cross paths where they're at odds, I guess, because Boba's doing like a spice run, got people running spice or something.
Maybe, but that's just I'm interesting about Bo-Katan, like the relationship between them, because like the only reason she joined, like it was like their interaction in the bar was just kind of like interesting, because like she just wanted Moff Gideon. That's the only reason she really came. with them there. So for the Darksaber, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now it's going to be interesting whether they stick together or not for like the rest of the next season, whenever that is.
Yeah, I have a feeling that the season 3 episode 1 could end up picking up right where season 2 finale leaves off. Like I can see something like that happening.
Yeah. Same.
Oh, I
But,
love time jumps though. I really like time jumps.
Yeah, I'm with Bryce on that one.
I kind of think he's just going to go straight back to the Foundry or whatever. I think that's what'll happen. I think they're going to, he's just going to take his pointy stick, his Darksaber. He's going to come back and he's been like, hey, boss, look what I did. Got rid of the kids, got all this cool new stuff. Here, I'll share it with you. It'll be great.
The thing is, I don't think Bo-Katan would let him do that. She's been after this Darksaber for forever. Like, that's going to have to be figured out before he's even able to.
Well, they'll just have a cage match, and he'll just like he won't fight as hard, or maybe she's like super badass and she's gonna beat the fucking shit out of him or something.
I think they'll draw that out over the next season. Probably. I think they're gonna make her like super miffed about it, or they'll make her like suck it up and be like, all right, I'm gonna follow you to retake Mandalore now, because right now we just need to retake Mandalore. Like, I think she might prioritize retaking Mandalore over getting the Darksaber back right away.
Yeah,
or hear me out, their plan is to do the duel, and maybe they even open the season with the duel starting, and then something happens, they can't finish it, and throughout the series of that season, they're trying to get back to that, but they have a bigger problem they need to fix. And by the end, she actually thinks he deserves to be Mandalore.
Yeah.
I think that's a possibility too. Yeah. I thought as soon as, because I mean, the show is called The Mandalorian, and like it seems fairly appropriate to have him as Mandalore himself.
And he can unite the two clans, right? Because now he knows he knows his cult clan. And then now he knows the regular people outside of that too.
Yeah, also, exactly. The thing I don't like about the the Mandalorian and the title of the show and him not revealing his face for the longest time, I thought was like the coolest thing, because it implied that anyone could be the Mandalorian. You know what I mean?
It was also, they were 100% stealing the Boba Fett thing, right? Because he was the man with no face until they did the prequels, and then everyone got mad about that. So like, let's just reboot Boba Fett, and that's basically what the Mandalorian was.
Yeah.
It's Boba Fett, but not
exactly.
So speaking of Boba Fett, I mean, we get Bib Fortuna. We got the famous McClunky line, which showed up in the recent re-edit of A New Hope. What was that, Reed?
Bid Fortuna or Big Fortuna?
Yeah, very good. Well done. That's got to be on a shirt, man. That's got to be on a shirt.
Josh, upload it. You could have it as a donation to the show.
Yeah, show merch, Escape Pod merch.
Dude, I'm gonna tweet it out. I'm gonna tweet it out on the show's Twitter right now.
Do it.
Just So
you better make the shirt first, or else people are gonna put it up there first, and your idea will be stolen.
Literally just his head with the tentacle thing or whatever, with the double, triple chins. Like, that's all I want.
Big Fortuna.
Big Fortuna.
Oh man. So other than Big Fortuna, we know what happened with Jabba's leftover people who actually survived the sail barge. Like, I didn't realize that everyone was on that, but maybe they were, because there was very few people in the palace.
Well, a lot of it would have left too. I mean, it established that Bib Fortuna was a very weak-minded fool. Jabba calls him out like right away. So I think a lot of people who were competent probably were like, nope, just left and went find someone else.
Don't the Hutts have control of like not just like Tatooine, but like a lot of different places too? So they probably like broke up. And then
that whole thing, the whole Hutt Empire though, has been crumbling ever since the days of the Empire. So, but yeah, at one point like they did have like quite a lot of power in their hands, and now it seems as if Boba controls the whole Jabba Palace and everything like that. And it's funny because as soon as he popped up originally earlier on in the Cobb Vanth episode, like the very first one, I think I brought it up. I was like, oh, what happened to Slave One, and like what happened to Jabba's palace and all this stuff. And so it turns out he did have Slave One, and I don't know what took him 5 years to like finally. to finally leave the planet, get his armor, and finally kind of go back to Jabba's palace and have his revenge of some kind, whatever that's all about.
There's a story there for sure. Like,
and we'll find out more about it in the book of Boba Fett. But like to kind of wrap up, like, do you guys have any kind of brief speculations on what that show is going to be kind of about?
Okay, I want to point out quick that at first I thought it was actually going to be a book, like a Star Wars novel.
I thought it was going to be a graphic novel, graphic novel or comic book or something.
Right.
But it's a show. Okay? Okay. All fans,
it's a show.
It's called a book, but it's a show.
The title card is online, and not just the text. You can actually find like a full-on title card for the show, like on the internet now. So, But briefly, just each of you, like, kind of give me your thoughts on the book of Boba Fett.
I think it's going to be about like just what we were saying right now. Like the Hutt Empire has fallen apart, so I think he's going to be starting from his the Fetts are going to start from their place of power in the former Hutt, now Fett palace, and just go and like slowly rebuild that. And maybe we'll get like flashbacks of his like struggle out of the Sarlacc pit.
For sure.
That'd be cool.
That's a good one.
My only issue is if they go that route, which is what it looks like they're going to do, that's pretty similar to what Darth Maul did by building like his own empire, right? His own like underground
Underworld Empire.
Thank you, Underworld Empire. So I don't know if I want them to just do that again. And now that we've learned who Boba actually is through the Clone Wars, I don't feel like he actually has the right morality to be a crime lord.
No,
I don't think it's gonna happen.
I don't think it's gonna be like him rebuilding an empire. I think it's probably gonna be him rebuilding his reputation.
Yeah,
like he was what, like the world, like the universe, the galaxy's like greatest bounty hunter.
Yeah.
So that's a solid reputation. Like I remember from like reading the graphic novels of like Boba Fett and stuff. Like he's very pricey. He's very sought after.
He's the only one who's not in the guild.
Yeah, so
because he's so well known.
Yeah, so I can just imagine, like,
So you think he's gonna? Sorry, you think he's gonna ditch the throne, and he's just like that shot of him on the throne was just like him, like
cleaning up the past, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe it was a lot of bait just to have stuff. Sorry, profanities. Like a really cool title, like a really cool shot. Like that shot, is so sick. So that could be just like a marketing shot. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know what the issue he would have with Big Fortuna. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, maybe he's going to do the one thing that has never been done before in Tatooine, and probably not the planet's close to it. On Tatooine specifically, and he's actually going to like clean it up, like the whole planet, not just like the one town, right?
Yeah, free of slaves, I guess.
Yeah. I'm curious, Bryce. Do you feel the same way about this show? Like what do you think is gonna happen?
I think I think I'm kind of on board with Phil. It's going to be reputation building and probably like a lot of revenge, a lot of like going around the galaxy and just taking people out that kind of crossed him.
Yeah.
I would kind of like it to be a bit like what's that Clint Eastwood, like
Dirty Harry?
Is that the one?
Dirty Harry, or are you talking
I haven't
about
actually seen very many of them.
No, I'm talking about Gran Torino, like the one where he's
I have seen that one. Yeah,
he's like an old crusty man, and he's just kind of like badass. I don't know. Kind of like that.
He's like, everything sucks. It's not as good as it used to be. Like back in my day, we were the OG generation.
Like that'd be pretty sick, actually. I'd actually really love
pretty
that.
Fun.
And he's gonna fight racism.
And I always like I always like the old EU story where it's just like Boba Fett and he's dying of like clone cancer. And he's
I like that one too.
Yeah, and he's just trying to like get money to get like treatment. Like I think that's really cool.
Right. Well, we've been introduced to a cloner at this point now, so that's I could totally see that happening. Yeah.
Well, he's obviously not going to trust the Kaminoans, right?
No, exactly. Yeah, and this guy's not Kaminoan, so Yeah,
That should be an episode where he goes back to Camino and just like trashes the place.
That'd be hilarious.
I would
It's
love
like
to see
Atlantis
Camino
just
again.
lost in the ocean.
I would love to see Camino again. Actually, I always thought that planet was really cool. But yeah. So
Master
anyway,
Boba, we were beginning to think you weren't coming.
Yeah, your army is ready.
I think this show has a lot of potential, and it's something a lot of people have wanted for a really long time. Like even when we had rumors of the Boba Fett movie, having all these bounty hunters show up again, like Bosk and IG-88 and stuff like that. I think it's foreseeable that this show will actually do that and like bring these bounty hunters back together. Like, we'll get like Dengar and, just Forloom and Zuckuss and everybody, like the whole crew kind of thing. So I think there's a lot of potential for this show for sure. But
as long as every single episode someone goes, "Shut up, Dengar!"
Yeah, shut up, Dengar. We should probably wrap up here though. But anyway, guys, thanks for coming back on the show. I had a great
Listening
time.
to our wrap up to the season.
Yeah, are we gonna do one of those? we'll chat about it. But we do have a kind of a big review for Squadron's gonna be coming up, and we also got to do one for Tales of Galaxy's Edge for Bet 2. So anyone wanting to get involved with those who have played those games, anyone here, just open invite to the room.
Sure,
we can figure that out.
Really.
Yeah, but other than that, fellas, it's been awesome, and we'll catch you next time.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having me too.
May the force be with you.
Anytime, boys, anytime. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in to Star Wars Escape Pod. And even though we have reached the end of Season 2 of The Mandalorian, Star Wars does not stop there. As you know, if you've been listening to the news or if you've been tuning into our past episodes, you'll know that there's many Star Wars shows around the corner. And of course, we have other content on the podcast that's coming your way, like our weekly Lightspeed episodes, which are pretty much just news headlines and the details that follow with that, keeping that in under 15 minutes just for those short commutes and all that. So that's something new, and they've been doing pretty well. So if you haven't checked them out yet, maybe give it a listen. And we do have our planned Rebels talk still around the corner, which is going to be a chronological journey through Star Wars Rebels with our co-host from the Clone Wars, Diego. And if you haven't tuned into the Clone Wars talk episodes, they're worth a go. We have 40 solid podcast episodes in various lengths, going through the Clone Wars in chronological order and chatting about all that stuff. So if you have an interest in Star Wars The Clone Wars, or if you watched this past season of The Mandalorian and found that you are missing a lot of stuff having not seen those animated shows, I recommend watching Star Wars The Clone Wars in chronological order, and you can do it with the help of Diego and I in our after show called Clone Wars Talk right here on Star Wars Escape Pod. If you guys could help us out in any way, shape, or form, it would be dropping a 5-star review on iTunes or sharing this show with a friend or a fellow Star Wars fan. We'll see you guys next week on Star Wars Escape Pod. May the Force be with you.